Welcome to another episode with me, Molly Kaluve, a space that challenges growth, self-awareness, and reflection in the most mindful way possible. I just want to say a big thank you to all of you guys for showing love, reposting, sharing it with your friends, family, and for those of you that have taken time just to reach out to me and give feedback about the episodes, I really appreciate each and every one of you guys for just being a part of this amazing journey. As usual for the season, 2 episodes will be dropped every Friday at 10 p.m. Kenyan time and 3 p.m. Eastern time, so look out for that. But without saying too much, let's get into today's affirmations. So today I will be talking about the Law of Relativity, so it's only right that today's affirmations align with that. So the first affirmation for today is, I am filled with limitless potential. I'm ready to see my life in new and exciting ways. I see potential in every person and opportunity in every situation. I have a skill and ability to see things in a great and useful perspective. And all circumstances offer a potentially greater gift. With that being said, let's get into today's episode. So today we're talking about the Law of Relativity. Now, the thing about the Law of Relativity, I won't lie, it's pretty much, it's one of those concepts or one of those things when you look at, you're like, dang, you don't really know how to process it at first. Well, that was my personal experience with it, because it makes a lot of things make sense, but at the same things, it also makes a lot of things make less sense. But, that is life. The more you know, the more you realize that you truly and honestly just don't know. And the Law of Relativity basically states that everything is neutral. Everything is relative, and we are the ones that attach meaning and emotions to experiences, to objects, to things. And therefore, life is not just as simple as black and white. It's more about perspective and how everybody else looks at it. Because it's not just good or bad, big or small. It's more of what you consider as big, what I consider as small. It really just opens your eyes to the idea and understanding that things are just very relative. And with that being said, with life being as a result of just what we attach meaning to stuff and how we react, how we respond to everything, that's why 99% of life is how we react to it, and 1% is really what actually happens. So how to kind of put that into perspective, and just to give you guys a few examples of how this law basically works in everyday life, is we kind of decide what is big or small because it's really relative. It depends on what you're comparing it to. So if you're comparing a dog to a cat, then the dog is big, the cat is small. But if you're comparing a dog to like an elephant, then the elephant is big, the dog is small. So it really depends on context a lot of the times and what we're comparing and, placing things against to determine what it means to us. And that's why when you talk about stuff about like success, when you talk about happiness, it's more of a question of like, it's not really about, what is happiness. You can't really define it in terms of a universal term as saying being in a relationship is happiness, or buying a house is happiness, because it's relative. It's more about what you dictate in your own life, or what you place value as, or have meaning for the understanding of what happiness truly is. Same thing with success. It's more about what your personal goals, what your personal ideals that you're working towards are, that actually determine what success means to you. Because it's nothing like, because I have a big house, I'm happy and you're not. But your definition of happiness is not going to be like my definition. And when you start to understand concepts like that, you start to realize like, dang, like a lot of things, it's not really that they have specific meaning. It's that we've placed them as objects or things or experiences that have more value. It's why certain moments in your life, you place more significance in than others, but somebody else who has been in the same situation as you, like somebody, you might be living with somebody, but Your favorite day is not going to be their favorite day just simply because of their perspective of that day and your perspective on that day. And I hope you guys are keeping up with me. So with that being said, and with understanding the fact that 99% of life is how we react and 1% is what actually happens, you start to realize that our reaction is determined by the choices we make, which can be conscious or unconscious, but still a choice. And everything is up to us. And what that basically means is that whether you get angry at a situation or you're not angry at that situation, it's completely up to you. Like, you are the one that chooses to be angry or not, because 99% of life is how we react to it, how we respond. Because every situation could be viewed as good, or it could be viewed as bad, or it could be viewed as a neutral situation. It's more about how you personally choose within yourself to feel or understand it as. That's why a lot of times, like, when certain events happen, we enter a state of confusion, because we truly and honestly, like, we do have that inner understanding that things are neutral, where it's like, yo, I don't even know how to feel about this, because you have several options on how to feel about it. It's more of being in a state of like, yeah, I need to choose how to feel about it, because I don't know if about you guys, but I've been in situations where something happens and it could be something that somebody else views as bad or good, because I don't even want to say good or bad situations, because again, like we're saying, it's all relative. And I won't lie, when you start to realize this, you're like, dang, can I even call this a bad situation? Because at the same time, it's also a good situation because I've learned something from it, where I just enter this like state of confusion where it's like, look, yeah, this happened and some people may view this as bad, but at the same time, I've learned so much from this event. So is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? And you start to now understand the fact that everything that happens in life can be deemed as neutral. A lot of the time, it's hard for us to just view things as what they are. Like, this happened and that's that. It's neither good nor bad. It's just whatever happened, because we're not used to it. We've been conditioned to saying, yeah, this is good, this is bad. We're never conditioned to being like, yeah, this is neutral. So because of that, we also enter those states where it's like, you know, and you feel that something is both good or bad, but you feel the need to have to choose one specifically, because we are always choosing, we are always deciding how we take in things, how we actually process information. It's not like something that's forced upon us. It's just something we do on a regular basis. So we choose to react and not to react. And that's actually a powerful thing. So how does the law of relativity basically apply to us? Like, it really does help you understand that there are multiple points of view. When you start to understand the law of relativity, the fact that everything is actually neutral, you start to realize, like, dang, I could look at every situation from multiple perspectives. And when I look at it from multiple perspectives, it doesn't have to be a bad situation if it's typically or societally like labeled bad. It could be a situation that is actually good. And that's why, and I said this on the episode about the law of correspondence, which is if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that's by Dyer. And it's very important to understand the fact that a lot of the times when we see our life and we see things going bad, it's not really the fact that things are going bad, it's just we look at it badly. I know for a lot of people that will go over your head, but it's not that things are actually going bad, it's that we're looking at them badly. What that means is, and I give the example of this year, 2020. For some people, 2020 is the worst possible year ever because of how they're looking at it. But for other people, I don't even lie, me included, is one of the best possible years. And I say this because from my perspective, from my point of view, the way I've chosen to look at things, this is a year for me of spiritual awakening, realization, self-growth, understanding the lessons and things that are of priority in my life and that should be priority, you know, for my focus and my attention and my energy. Basically understanding what I need to pour into myself and what I need to pour out. You know, seeing everything that's going on, like it makes me realize the importance of sharing my knowledge. You know, that's what pushed me to start the podcast, because I realized a lot of people are struggling with stuff like mental health, self-love, just being in a state of confusion and loss, even spiritually, mentally, on all aspects. So it's like, yeah, now I understand that I'm not going to look at what's going on as bad, because it's now made me realize what I need to do more of, as myself, to contribute to whatever is going on. Again, that's just simply because of the way in which I changed my perspective. I changed how I looked at things. And now when I look at 2020, I just don't see it as what everybody calls it, like a bad year. Yes, certain circumstances, it doesn't mean that I look at things, I'm like, yeah, everything is per se good. It's just my perspective on it and what I take from it and how I'm responding to everything and the events going on is just very different. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that you can control, the only thing that you can change in this life, or, have any type of control of, is yourself and how you choose to look at this. The other key quote that really just talks about how it's applied into our daily life and how you can actually just use this a lot more is a quote by Neville Goddard, amazing author, and it says, "Change your conception of yourself and you will automatically change the world in which you live. Do not try to change people. They're only messengers telling you who you are. Revalue yourself and they will confirm the change." How that basically plays out, and it goes hand in hand with the law of correspondence, is that when you start to change how you look at things, when you start to change in how, you move, when you start to change, the perspective and how life affects you and how you choose to actually respond to it, the whole world changes for you. And it's mind-blowing to me because when I think about it, like last year, yes, I was in a state of depression. I didn't go to like Mars and start a new life. I'm still like the same, like I'm still Molly, like I'm still in the same house. I'm still in the same, situation. Like physically speaking, I'm still in the same place. This is the same world that I was once low and depressed in. But now it's the most beautiful place possible. And it's not because nothing actually physically changed per se. It's just I changed in terms of my perspective. I changed in the way that I saw things. I didn't fly to a different universe. I didn't fly to a different planet. I'm in the same place. And when you start to understand the power of that, like you could be in the same situation, but look at it in like 50 different ways. That's why sometimes like things happen in our life that we're like, dang, this is bad. But halfway through, you're like, wait. And it's still the same situation. Nothing's actually changed with what happened to you. But you start to realize like, whoa, I've learned so much from this situation. I'm grateful for it. But that was the same situation initially. You was like, yo, this is terrible. This is, nasty. Like please, I hope you guys are understanding this and you're feeling this with me. The fact that that's the same situation you're in. And I'll give the example of like a bad breakup. Like, in the moment you're like in your feelings, you're like, I can't believe people be doing me like this. Like, I can't believe I got my feelings hurt. But then later on, and it's the same relationship, same breakup, same exact situation. Like, nobody went back in time and changed what it was. You start to realize like, whoa, this was the best thing that possibly happened to me because it taught me what I don't want in my life. It taught me what I don't want around me. And therefore, I can progress and move on to something better. Now I know what I stand in terms of my values. Now I know what I accept and I don't accept into my life. And you're moving on better. You didn't change the situation. You just changed yourself and the perspective you choose to take. Again, it is all about choice. When you start to realize everything in life is actually a choice, like you could choose to dwell in a negative space, or you could choose to take yourself, look at it in a different light, and make a bad situation the best situation that ever happened to yourself. I'm not gonna lie. Like if you asked me a while back, like I've been like, yo, the last 5 years of my life have been hell. But for me, they were the most amazing 5 years now. Like, if you ask me today, they're the most amazing 5 years I could have possibly had because they have molded me and shaped me into mindful Molly, basically. If I hadn't gone and experienced certain things that I did, if I hadn't gone through certain trials and tribulations, been through certain situations, had certain things happen to me, if life just didn't happen the way life goes, and somebody called me out for this that I said the last episode, if life didn't just life itself, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now. I would not be able to pour into you guys. Because those situations, like, yeah, I could have looked at them in a negative light and been like, yo, they broke me. They made me terrible. But for me, I'm now choosing, and I realize that I'm looking at it from a perspective of, those were situations that promoted growth. They molded me into a strong individual. They molded me into somebody who is now in a position of having to rediscover myself, having to read more, having to tap into different streams of spirituality and understanding, and really diving into those aspects of myself as a result of certain situations happening. And because of that, I have the capacity, I have the information to now start pouring that into new people. I have that ability to now share my personal experiences, because this is all based off experience. I can only speak from, what I've experienced and what has happened to me. I'm not able to pour that into you guys, each and every one of you people listening. And just like that, a few months ago, 5 years of my life that were hell, a few months later are now the best 5 years of my life. Those 5 years have not changed. It's me and my perspective. It's me and my response and reaction to those 5 years that has actually just changed for the better. And that's why I like to say, like, even when it comes to emotions, when I talked about emotional control and emotional intelligence, I talked about there's no such thing as good or bad emotions. It's just good or bad reactions to our emotions. Because everything is neutral. That is the law of relativity. Everything is neutral. We have the power. You have the capacity to place importance, to place value, to place attachment to whatever is going on in your life. So with that being said, when you have people in your life that are just like, you feel like they're dragging you through it, you have the power to give that person the power to influence you. Because if you look at it from a perspective of like, you actually just don't have that much value in my life to be putting me through this, imagine it stops. Like, yeah, I know a lot of people will say easier said than done, but again, this is not an easy life. Like, nothing is supposed to be easy. But at the same time, what is easy and what is not is also based on perspective. If you keep looking at things as being hard, oh my gosh, this is hard, this is so stressful, this is tiring, that's what they become. That is a perspective you've decided and chosen to look at it as. You could actually decide today that, you know what, this life thing is actually easy. It's simple. I just need to do better. I need to think better. I need to be better. And everything will end up turning out to be better. It's all about your perspective and the way you look at things. And that's why this is one of the most powerful laws to me. When you start to tap into the fact that, and I know it sounds nihilistic to say that nothing actually has meaning until you place meaning on it, everything just changes for the better. But, we're talking about the law of relativity. How can you actually use it? How can you start to apply or understand it further to use it better in your life? So the first thing is self-reflection and evaluation. You want to start thinking about how you process certain emotions, how you process certain events, what perspectives do you take? Think about situations. How do you react to them? What would be a better way to look at it? Because everything has another side to it. The law of polarity is that everything has its opposite. You could look at situations as good or bad. You could look at it as neutral. And that's why a lot of the time when I'm asked like, oh my gosh, how do you stay so positive? I actually don't stay positive. I stay neutral. Which is that sometimes I just don't think as things as positive or negative. I just take them as they are. Yeah, this happened and that is exactly that. It doesn't need to be good. It doesn't need to be bad. It's just as simple as that. Because like I said before, sometimes, and this is my personal view, my personal perspective when it comes to this, where you try to put yourself in a state of like positivity, where it's like you don't understand that sometimes life will happen and that certain things will be triggered and you'll be tested. The reason I add this is because, yeah, you could be positive and still have an understanding that sometimes you will be tested. There's a difference. But a lot of the time people think of being positive as putting yourself in this unrealistic and, way of life where it's like, I'll never be tested. The universe will never test me. There's nothing I'll ever go through. No. I put myself in a neutral state where it's like I speak positive things into my life, but at the same time I understand that I will be tried. And I gave the example in one episode about like a seesaw. If I stand on one side of the seesaw and something drops on the other side, I'm getting flung over to the other side. So if I'm on this side of like extreme and like, I'd say unrealistic positivity, and then some big boulder just drops on the negative side, where do I get thrown to? The negative side. But if I stand in the middle where it's like I understand positivity, but I understand that certain times things will happen, like there's a pull, there's a cause effect, there's a push and pull that happens, within the universe, I then understand that, yes, I speak good things into my life. I do not limit myself. I'm abundant. I am limitless. But I understand that the universe and life will test me at times. It just puts me into a better perspective, and I start to see things as not just good or bad, as simply good or bad, but I see the spectrum. I understand that it's more about my perspective and how I choose to look at things. Now, the other thing and how you can use the law of relativity to also better yourself and start to realize, how you're, how to move forward and better yourself and think better and create better habits is to think about what you want out of life and what you envision yourself to be. When you start to envision the type of person you want to be, it also helps you shift and change the perspective in which you look at life. Because when you start to envision yourself as somebody who, is going to, like, I'm abundant, like, I'm happy, not even looking at your future self, like, I want you to think about whatever you thought of your future self, think about that as your present self. Like, for me, like, happiness used to be a future thing. I used to be like, one day I'll be happy, And now it makes more sense why I was just never happy, because I kept placing it in the future. I was deliberately taking my happiness and saying, one day I'm going to be happy. So I placed it far away from me. So that every day that I said, one day I'll be happy, I just kept putting my happiness one day further away. I'd be like, one day. For every one day, it moved one day further. And then I'd be like, why am I not happy? Because I kept pushing it further and further away from me. Again, watch what you say. One day I'll do this, bruh. You putting your one day, like, a day away every time you say it. That's why I like to, affirmations. I am happy. I am limitless. Not one day I'll be limitless, because then being limitless will be one day away. I say I am limitless. I am abundant. I am happy. I am powerful. I am, more than I appear to be. The more you speak those things into your life and you see yourself as that person in the present, the more you see yourself as that person in the present, the more it shifts the glasses and the lenses that you look at life with. It shifts your perspective for the better. Because now that you understand that everything is neutral and it's more about how you look at things, therefore you could change your whole life just by doing that. And the reason I say this is because when you look at, a lot of the time you see people who are extremely wealthy, but I won't say wealthy. You see people who are extremely rich. And you're like, damn, why are these people miserable? It's because from your perspective, that is everything. But from their perspective, that is nothing. Again, perspective. And then it's the same thing. Like, you could have somebody who has everything materialistically, but they're so unhappy. And you could have somebody who doesn't have anything materialistically, but they're the most happiest person in the world. And that's because their perspective is so different. It's so powerful because they see the life around them as abundant, as happy, as beautiful. I mean, it doesn't mean they're satisfied, but it just means they have a different outlook and perspective of life that just brings that type of happiness. Now, the third thing and the last thing on like kind of how to use this a little bit more is to stop looking at situations as good or bad. View them as neutral. And that's what I was saying before. Neutrality is key. Stop always looking for good, bad, black, white, big, small. Sometimes just take things as they are. This happened. You don't have to place meaning to everything. I promise you guys, it will not hurt you. It will not harm you to not place meaning to everything. Because sometimes and I say this a lot of the time, like we break our own hearts by placing meaning to things that just did not need meaning in the first place. That just happens to us so many times on a daily basis where it's like something was like, it was not something that was even of importance, because to be honest, if we're talking about relativity, that, it was neutral, but now we made it of great importance. And now it's affecting us more than it should have in the beginning. So just watch how you view things. take time and realize it's more about your perspective than some universal idea of what's good or bad. Because universally speaking, as one of the laws of the universe, the law of relativity just states that everything is neutral and everything is just relative. It's more about how you choose to look at it and what you want to compare it to that make the big difference. But with that being said, thank you guys for tuning into today's episode. Be kind, be grateful, be compassionate, be loving, be mindful, be conscious, and most of all, take care.